My name is Rich Depolo. I'm the founder of Renovating in Mexico here in San Miguel de Allende. I've been working in architectural design and construction for about the last 25 years. I started in the San Francisco Bay Area, renovated our first house in Oakland, California. I went to work for a general contractor to get to know about construction methods and worked for him for about 2 years. At the same time, we were renovating a Victorian house in Oakland that my partner and I had. And I spent about 2 years renovating that house. And during that time, I started to take on projects for clients. I did that for about 8 years. I focused mainly on kitchen and bathroom renovations. Initially just the installation work, but over time I found that I was asked by my clients to do more design work. 2007, I went and took an architectural design class at a local community college, and that kind of started the design business. I ended up going to UC Berkeley, and I graduated with a bachelor's in architecture in 2010, and then went on to work at a pretty highly regarded architecture firm in Oakland, and I did mostly residential work, but also designed a restaurant, Homestead, or worked on the design of a restaurant called Homestead on Piedmont Avenue in Oakland. So after leaving the architecture firm, which was in, I think, 2013, I went out on my own and did residential work, a couple of small commercial projects, and focused mainly on large-scale renovations of existing homes, also accessory dwelling units, and did that up until 2020 when the pandemic hit. So at that time, my partner Rick and I had owned a house in Los Cabos for about 3 years, and in November of 2020 we took a trip down at Thanksgiving time and planned to spend a couple weeks, and ended up staying there. So due to lockdowns in California, we decided, let's just hang out here for a while. And by that spring, we had decided that we were going to stay in Mexico. So I kind of wondered, okay, what am I going to do for work? And ended up buying a lot that was about 5 or 6 houses down from our house, and ended up designing and building a new house there, which we took about 2 years to complete, and then we sold it. And that was a huge education for me. I realized how different the construction methods are in Mexico versus how I had been building in the United States. There was a language barrier. The materials that are used were different, and so it wasn't necessarily easy to get the things that I had been used to working with. And just sort of the culture around construction and design and people's roles are very different. I had some challenges in that project, but ultimately it turned out really well, and the people who live there now, they've been in the house for about 3 years and they love it. They've become good friends. At the same time we were doing that project, we bought a house across the street from the one we were building and renovated that. And again, another successful project with challenges on the way, but I sort of realized that I was somewhat unprepared for doing renovations and building in Mexico, even though I'd been doing it in the United States for close to 20 years at that point. Ended up starting to talk with friends in Los Cabos about construction and my experience, and we ended up with a bunch of friends who were all building houses around the same time, and I started to sort of take on an advisory role to a number of them. I also would spend a lot of time meeting with friends who were professional renovators like myself, and so things just sort of naturally developed. How I ended up here in San Miguel is the second summer of the construction in Los Cabos. It was 95 degrees and 95% humidity, and I'm a native of the Bay Area, so I'm not really used to that. And I said to my partner, can we go away for a few days? And we took a trip to Querétaro, where we had friends who also build homes. We spent 3 days there with them, and they took us up to San Miguel de Allende, and we ended up staying for a few days and sort of fell in love with this town. A few months later, one of my oldest friends was looking at retiring in San Miguel. She had visited maybe 15 years prior and loved it and was retiring and couldn't stay in the Bay Area. And so she says, I'm going to San Miguel in October. And I said, great, I'll join you. That trip was probably, in terms of my business, one of the most important things that ever happened. I fell in love with this town during those 5 days that I was here. And we ended up meeting with Arturo Nava, who's a local realtor, so that my friend could get an idea of where she might want to live in terms of the neighborhood, and also the type of homes that were here, because they are quite different than what we were used to in the Bay Area. He and his business partner met with us and took us on a tour of the city. We visited 4 different neighborhoods and 4 different houses. And this house that we're sitting in now was the last house that we saw. I have a story about how that happened, but it was sort of just seemed like it was meant to be. I ended up putting an offer on this house that afternoon, and Rick had never seen the house. Had spent 3 days in San Miguel, and yet he was totally supportive of doing this project and having a summer place, which is what this house was supposed to be. This place was very different than what it is now. In many respects, in some ways it's very similar, but we had a house that we needed to renovate, and did not have a contractor, didn't know any architects or builders here in San Miguel, and our friends in Querétaro said, you know, our architect builder Mayela Rodriguez is building our house right now, and do you want to talk to her? Sure, sounds great. And about 2 hours later, I get a phone call from her saying, Eduardo and Manu told us about you and Rick, and I'm really interested in your project. So we swapped photographs of projects that I had done in California and in Los Cabos. She sent me some photographs of her work, and she was just lovely. I had challenges with my contractor toward the end of the project. We spent about a year working on this house together, and it turned out beautifully. There were times where she kind of doubted some of my design decisions, but just because a contemporary Mexican house is quite different than what I was used to doing in the United States, and so you'll find that this is sort of a blend, both in terms of how the spaces are used and also the materials. But we worked really, really well together, and we finished this house almost 2 years ago. And at the end of the project, we were both kind of sad that it was ending. And she said, when are we going to do another project? And I said, well, the house is finished, I said, but if you can find me a house that needs to be renovated, I would certainly be interested. That was like on a Thursday, and she actually was here for a meeting of punch list items to deal with the house. And she called me that night and she said, I'm coming to San Miguel tomorrow. And she lives in Querétaro, about 45 minutes away. And I said, well, there's not really anything that we need to meet about. We saw each other today. And she said, no. There's some things with your house that I need to deal with, and so I'm going to come by. And she arrives the next morning and she says, I think I found a house. And that was the beginning of what we're doing now, which is renovating in Mexico. That house was a very long, narrow house, about 13 feet wide and 60 feet long. Probably the biggest design challenge that I ever had in terms of making the house flow well. A friend had told her about this house. She hadn't seen it. She was sort of horrified at the condition because there had been squatters in it. We took a tour of the house, and at the end of that, she kind of came out and she was like, "What do you think?" And I was like, "This is perfect." And she's, "Really?" We went to a little cafe, and I sat down with a pad and paper, and I basically drew out the floor plan of the house that we renovated over the following 10 months. So, and that house was sold back in October. So at the end of that project, it was another one that went really well. It turned out beautifully, and we started talking about, okay, how do we continue doing this? And what has ended up happening is that we have started to take on projects for clients. Right now we're working on a kitchen renovation. For someone, we'll start a whole house renovation for another client in the Centro district in San Miguel here in probably the next few weeks. And we have 2 other houses that we're going to be renovating to resell. So it's kind of exploded, I guess maybe is a good way in a good way. And then the other side of what we're doing is we're sort of informing people of what construction in Mexico entails. I've met a lot of people here in San Miguel that have moved here oftentimes on a whim, where they come for a visit for a few days and decide they want to live here. And we all have, a lot of us have that same story. So I can really relate to that because I experienced it myself. In talking with people here, they come to a new place. Oftentimes they don't speak the language, they don't have connections with other people in the community, and they get themselves into trouble. And the projects don't always turn out so well, and the stories aren't always so great. I kind of feel like, well, I've done this. I worked professionally for 20 years in the States, and then over the last 6 years in Mexico, I've been working, and I can provide, I can relate to the clients. I have a good team of people that work on my projects. Maela, who serves as sort of a second designer as well as a project manager, knows really how things work and deals with the, her team of employees. We have Jorge, who is a structural engineer, which is Maela's business partner. He's Maela's business partner, and he kind of keeps us in line and makes sure that we don't do anything that will get us into trouble. And Daniel, who is the albañil, the builder, and he has his crew that works on our project. And so we've now done 3 projects here. And so we can provide basically all kinds of services, from simply advising a client on our experience, my experience. We can provide design services, plans for permits. We can do the construction, and we also have the ties to the realtors that, if somebody is looking for a house in San Miguel, we can also help on that end. So we love transforming homes, taking something that really can be quite rough and making it beautiful. So that's. So in future videos, we'll be talking about sort of the process that we go through, showing you examples of our work, past projects that we've done, as well as visits to current sites and our current projects. Give you an opportunity to meet some of our clients, and they'll be talking about their experiences. And then we'll also be visiting some of our suppliers, and so that you can kind of see how some of the materials that we use in our projects are actually made and installed.